Hello and welcome to the Great Australian Craft Show number 6. So in today's class we are going to make a scrapbook page using my foam stamps and stencils and making your own embellishments. This white sheet of cardstock is going to be our base for our page, and we are going to use some Distress speckled egg embossing powder, some clear embossing powder, some Dina Wakley sprays, some white paint. So without further ado, let's get started. I love using these foam stamps to make my own embellishments. You can use them in the background as foam stamps. You can use them in the foreground as embellishments. They're very versatile. What I'm doing is I'm working on 280 GSM cardstock. A lot of these products can be purchased from my friend at Hillbilly Scrappin'. On my website is all the products that I make and manufacture. So my stamps, my stencils, my chipboard, the 400 GSM cardstock that I cut out as well, mixed media cardstock, and some napkins my daughter's selling as well. But all the other stuff is available from Hillbilly Scrapping. We often team up and do the shows together. So if you've been to any of our shows in person, you have met the lovely Jen from Swan Hill. So what we're going to do is we just have to prepare our piece of cardboard first. So I'm just drying my brush because I was using it just before. So to make our background, I'll just grab my sample to show you what we're doing. Just tip everything off it that's not on it. So this is what we're going to make for our background. Now it has a bit of a shine to it. So this background is made using the lovely Dina Wakley sprays, Goss sprays that I'm in love with. She's just brought out some new pastel ones. Jen has them all in stock and they are so much fun. So this is the background we are going to make. Now the gloss sprays prefer to go on a gessoed surface or on top of themselves to do this nebulizing effect. This is all the sprays doing this. This is stenciling over the top that we're going to add after. But to get this sort of, this is like an underwater scene, like bubbles and things. The sprays do that by themselves. But to get the best out of the sprays, I like to put clear gesso on my page first, because the sprays will only do this resisting effect if you spray a spray on top of a spray. If you just spray the spray, if you just start with the sprays on raw cardstock, your first layer will soak in, and I find that's a bit of a waste. So I always gesso my pages, and I've got a few of the brush marks in here with the clear gesso, which adds another layer of texture as well. So clear gesso is basically what it says. It's clear. Gesso is a primer or an undercoat. So we're just going to put a, oh, that might be a bit too much, generous amount on, and I like to keep my brush strokes all going the same way. So I'm just going to go up and down. Oh, I think I put too much out. Oops. So this is basically going to seal our cardstock, and we are going to then have a lovely base to work on top of. I have put way too much out. Don't be that heavy-handed with the gesso. I'm just opening a page in my art journal that I've got off to the side so I can get rid of this clear gesso that's too much. Just trying to flip to a page that I want to add it to. So when I'm using any mixed media, I often have my art journal right next to me, because then when I have excess stuff like this, I can just take my journal and pop it in. My journal is an altered book, so nothing gets wasted in scrapbooking. I'll just take a bit more off, and then I will just spread it out on this page. Clear gesso seals your page, so you can either seal book pages like I'm sealing here, or you can seal cardstock. Clear gesso you can seal pattern paper with if you want to put more mixed media over the top of it. Now we're just going to go through and flatten this out. So I like to keep my brush strokes all in the one direction, so at the moment I'm going up and down. Just means if you get a bit of texture showing in your work, it's texture in all of the one way. So now we want to give that a bit of a dry. I've got stuff everywhere today. I'm a bit of a grub. So we're just going to give that a bit of a dry. I'll pause the video. I'll be back when it's dry. You don't need to sit here and watch paint dry, do you? Okay, so our page is all dried off. just move it back up into the view. So it has a bit of a gritty sound to it now, a bit of a gritty feel as opposed to the smooth cardstock. So I'm going to use three colours. I picked 5, but I'm going to use 3 colours. I'm going to use one of the new ones called Mineral, which is a really nice powdery blue. I'm going to use Night, which is my all-time favourite, and I'm going to use Turquoise. So gloss sprays are fantastic. They are an acrylic spray, so you do need to give them a bit of a shake. They've got a ball bearing in there. I'm just going to stand up and spray because I like to stand up and spray. You just want to protect your work surface as well because you will get a bit of overspray, and because it's acrylic paint, it'll stick. So I'm going to start with the Mineral. Best to keep these caps as well, and if they do clog up at all, it's usually just a little skin on here, and you just flick it off with your finger. So they usually don't clog up, which is really, really good. So I just want to sort of spray around in a circle, aiming for mainly the middle. As you can see, it's starting to do the resisting thing because it's resisting on the gesso. So you're starting to get these white bits, which is really cool. So when I hit another colour over the top, it's going to do the resisting thing even more. Each one of these is different, so it's going to look slightly different to my first one I did. I love this Night colour. It is brilliant. I probably need to get another bottle. I love spraying the lighter colours and then doing the darker colours over the top. I probably lost a bit of the turquoise. Let's put a bit of the turquoise back in. No, that's Ocean. Which one was the turquoise? This one. I'm going to bring a bit turquoise back in over the top because I went a bit heavy-handed. Whoops. Now we are just going to let that sit there and do its thing. So I'm just going to pick this up and swirl this around. I do have a fair bit of spray in the middle. I didn't do this to the first one, but that's okay. They're both going to be different. So just going to swirl that around, and then we are going to dry it off. Now you can speed it up with the heat tool. I was actually just going to put a little bit more turquoise around the edge. It's spraying funny. It's got a bit of a blockage in it. There we go. It's spraying more like a mist now. So we're going to just quicken it up with the heat tool. I'm liking the edge, and the edge is the main thing we're worried about because the middle is going to be covered up. So this will dry a little glossy, so I'm going to dry this and then come back. I've actually realised I've got far too much paint on here, so I'm just going to put a bit of this deli paper, greaseproof paper over the top and soak up some of that extra paint. Liking that a bit better now. It was just a bit heavy-handed. A bit heavy-handed in the middle there. There we go. Liking this much better. Now we're going to dry it off. Just want to bring a little bit more of the Night back in because now it's gone a bit light. So it's basically you're playing with it until you're happy with it. And we're going to dry that off again. Actually, let's go in with the big blue. There it's doing what it should. There we go, we're getting these bubbles. That's what I wanted. Okay, so that is totally dry. Now we're going to bring in our stencil. Our mermaid stencil. So the products that we use that are in my website, I will put in a special folder marked Great Australian Craft Show number 6, and you'll be able to see them all in the one spot. So this is our mermaid stencil. Just going to use some Dina Wakley acrylic white paint. Now these gloss acrylic sprays are unique. Because they dry permanent, they will keep this white paint white. So I can get some really cool mermaid scale stenciled on top. Now if I did this with any other brand spray, the colour would soak up through the white paint and it would tint the colour. But because these sprays are permanent, we can just go ahead and add a bit of white paint. And doesn't that look really cool? Most of that is going to be covered up. I've got a big circly thing to go in the middle and some more bits to add. So we're only going to see a little bit of this around the edge. So just put that on with the Tim Holtz blending foam. Going to use our stencil in a moment. Next thing we're going to do is actually make some of our embellishments for this page. So we're going to be using 2 of my foam stamps. I'm just going to put that away somewhere to sit. So we're actually going to make some of these really cool embellishments. Actually, I might flip my page over so you don't have to stare at a dirty piece of paper. Might be a bit easier. Okay, that's dirty on that side too. That's always handy. I've done that before. Here we go. This would work. So we're going to use the foam stamps and make some of our own embellishments. Now, I wanted embellishments that were sort of blue and green looking, so I have pre-stamped some and cut some out so I don't have to get you to watch me to stamp them all out, but I'll show you one of each process. So what I decided to do was to use each of my foam stamps. So I've got a solid foam stamp. This is a small vine stamp and there is a larger one. And what you can do with this foam stamp is when you stamp it, you can twist it, you can turn it, you can do all sorts of fun stuff with it because it moves. So we can make some embellishments that turn to the left, turn to the right. So what I went through my scrap box of cardstock and pattern papers and just selected some in the bluey greeny tones. These 2 are obviously white cardstock and that's a coloured embossing powder. This is actually speckled egg distress stain. Distress embossing glaze, and then the rest of these are done on pattern paper with clear embossing powder. So I'll just grab the pattern papers. These ones are very old. I don't even know, one of this company is not even in manufacture anymore, so I do apologise, but just dive into your stash and find some papers that are in sort of the bluey tones. This one's an old Kaisercraft one, this one's a basic grey one, and a Kaisercraft one as well. So you will need a Versamark clear embossing pad, and we're going to do some embossing with some clear embossing powder. And this will let the patterns from this show underneath, but it will give us really cool shiny leaves. I wanted these to look like seaweed because we're doing like a mermaid theme page. Did I mention that before? No, I didn't. So we're going to start with... Sorry, it's my 4th video and I'm a bit bamboozled today. We're going to start with the stamp and we're going to just press our ink pad into the stamp. Not worrying if I get a bit of ink down into the dots. This ink pad is very sticky because it needs to stick to the stamp. So when I position the stamp, I can curl it any way. I'm going to curl it this way. And then I want to put my hand flat on it and hold it for about 5 seconds for the ink to be able to transfer it to the paper. Now, when I pick this up, you won't see the ink on it because it's clear ink, but when I put the embossing powder on it, you will see. I've got clear embossing powder in my takeaway container. When you pick your stamp up, you want to pick it straight up. You don't want to have any sideways movement. Then when I put this on, ooh, magic. I missed the top of it. I like to store my embossing powder that I use a lot, which is the clear, in a Chinese container, and then I can just pick, or a plastic container. I should call it a Chinese container. That's what my Chinese comes in when I orders it. So this just, you can pick it up and flick it on. I've got a bit of ink there. So if you have any powder stick to somewhere where you don't want it, it's not a real big issue because we're going to fussy cut these out. So if it's out here beyond your shape, that's fine. If it's connecting your shape like it was just then, I just tapped it with the spoon, tapped the powder off before I heat set it. Now when you heat set embossing powder, you want to heat your heat tool up away from your embossing powder for about 20 seconds, and then you want to slowly move. You want to start with your heat tool at one end and slowly move all the way down the other end. You don't want to do this because what you want is you want to get each part of the embossing powder hot before it move on to the next bit, and you'll see it running. You'll see it going from this crystally little powders to this shininess. It's not very loud, so I'll do a couple with you, and then that's why I've done the extras, so you don't have to watch me emboss about 9 or 10 of them. So this is a low heat tool, so it takes a few seconds more to get going. It's the Tim Holtz distress tool. It's a lower noise one for my videos. Okay, it's about to go. It's about to... Can you see it? Oh, the heat tool's in the way. You can probably see it that direction. You can see the crystals are disappearing and it's going white. So slowly move your heat tool down as you see it creeping onto your leaf. Heat embossing is really fun. You can do so much with embossing powders. They are great to have in your stash. And you use hardly any of it. Okay, so don't touch it for probably about a minute because that is hot because you've just melted it. And now we have that fun embellishment. And when we go and cut it out, it looks like this. They are a little tricky to fussy cut, but they're well worth it. Definitely, definitely well worth it. Now what I also did is some white ones with, I didn't grab any more white cardstock. I'll just grab some more. So I found some more white in my scrap box. This is a great idea to use up all your scrap pieces of pattern paper and cardstock. So this time we're just going to use the solid leaf, so it's going to be the same action. We're going to just put the embossing powder on top, pressing down quite firm with the embossing powder, embossing ink pad. And this one I'm going to slightly curl. Now some of these I have done very curly. Some of them I have done fairly straight. So you're just wanting a variety, and you're wanting a variety, some curling left and some curling right, just to add a bit more interest. These are going to sort of form a clustery thing on the bottom of our layout. So this time I'm going to pour our Distress Glaze on. Just got a scrap piece of paper underneath because I'm going to pour this one back into the jar. Fortunately this one is only a small jar and I don't have enough to put into a Tupperware container. Just got a little bit there I want to get rid of. So you can see that there. So this one is a glaze, so it's semi-transparent. It's not as opaque as other embossing powders. So you can get some embossing powders that are totally opaque so you can't see through them. You can get clear embossing powder and now you can get embossing powder glaze. So much fun. Let's take that away because I don't want you getting distracted by the words on my page. It's only what I was going to do for my glasses. I can't see if that's going. There we go. So that is slowly turning. So I'm not fussed if a stamp doesn't stamp properly or 100% because we're going to cut these out. It's not going to be a main focal image on our project. So we're going to leave that one dry off for a minute. I'm just going to get my embossing powder out of the way. We're finished with that. So I'm just going to grab some small scissors. These are embroidery scissors and I like to fussy cut with them because they've got a nice fine tip. So when I fussy cut, I like to roughly cut it out. And then I'm going to cut it with about a 2mm border around the embossing. So if you haven't fussy cut a lot before, you hold your scissors in the one spot and you turn the paper around. Instead of trying to turn your wrist and go like this, it's easier just to swivel the bit of paper around and keep your scissors in relatively the same spot. Doesn't matter if you're not perfect. We're not looking perfect. I can't talk tonight. We're not looking for perfection. We are just looking for a fussy cut around. Sometimes I don't go into the divots into near where the stem is. I will come back and do those. Sometimes it's easier just to cut around it and then come back and do a bit of the detailing. And I apologise if I go out of screen. For those regulars that know me, I do have low vision. I'm not allowed to even drive a car, which big roads are so mean. It's probably good I'm not on the road. So sometimes I will move something out of shot to line it up or to see. And when a big bit like that annoys me, I just chop it off. So I do apologise if that happens. I try not to do it. I usually have things quite close to my nose when I'm fussy cutting, because I look over the top of my glasses to see. So I like stamping these on pattern paper because it gives them a nice texture. And it looks like you've done a lot of work and you sort of haven't. Okay. So here I'd probably go back in and trim here a little. It depends on how much you twist the stamp as to how much room is between the petals, so you can go back in and cut them. And I probably just want to go in this one as well. What I find is sometimes going in from each petal and then cutting up straight off the spine works really well. As you can tell, that didn't take long at all. I'll probably do this one as well. I usually say I'm done and then I go, oh no, I'll just cut this one more. Oh no, I'll just cut this one more. There we go. That looks really, really cool. So we've got a pile of embellishments. So I've got a couple on, I've got one solid one and I've got all dotty ones. Let's cut out another solid one, because we can't just have one solid one. That might look rather funny. I didn't do any solid ones on the pattern paper. Not sure how many of these I'm going to use, but it's good to, sometimes I don't feel like actually making a project, but I want to do something. I want to get crafty, but I'm sort of, don't really want to make, like completely make a page. I will grab out my scraps and my foam stamps and make some embellishments, and then I've got them there to use when I come to do another project. So it's a fun activity to do, or it's a fun thing to do, is to have some pre-done and sitting in your stash. And then you're more inclined to use them. I find I use the embellishments that I've got sitting there a lot more if I've got them sitting there. So I'm more inclined to use the little bits if they're just in a little bag and I can pull them out and stick them on my layout, than having to go, oh, I'll go stamp, I'll go get my embossing powder, my embossing ink, my heat tool and all that stuff out. It's nice to do a bunch while you've got everything out on your desk. Well, one thing's dirty, why not make a few things? So just running around this with scissors. This is a little harder to cut because it is cardstock as opposed to the other ones were paper, but we're getting there. Now I'll go back and see if I want to do any more detailed cutting. I probably just want to do this little bit here. And this one up here. So I don't do every one of these in, just whatever one I think looks nice. Looks like it needs doing. Actually, that one now needs like it looks doing. I don't know. I could sit here and cut these all night. I quite enjoy fussy cutting. Well, before COVID, I would take things on the train to fussy cut. I would travel a lot on the train, either to Melbourne for appointments with my daughter or up to Swan Hill to hang out with hillbilly scrapping and do planning and kitting and all things for shows. And when shows start up again, I'll be doing that a lot more as well. So I often take these stamped out and I can sit there on the train and cut them out. Or if you're waiting for kids at school, you can sit there and stamp them out as well. Now we are going to make some stenciled tissue paper as well, or stenciled paper. So this is a roll of greaseproof paper. It's in a purple bag, a hot pink bag at Woolworths. It's like under $2 for 30 meters. It's called greaseproof paper. Has a dull side and a shiny side. And what I like about this paper is it almost disappears when you just going to fold it in half when you glue it down, but today we're not going to glue it down. We're going to use it like a tissue paper layer. But another way to use things differently is I'm actually going to use my stencil as a stamp. So what I'm going to do is position it on half of the paper. I'm going to grab, I think I'll do it with night. We'll do it with night, darker colour. So this is a different way to use your stencils, and it works with this particular medium because it's nice and juicy. So I'm just going to spray over the stencil, and then while the stencil is fairly wet still, I'm going to pick it up and flop it down this side. Grab another piece of paper, just this one, and press down. So this is going to transfer the ink and the spray from the stencil to the piece of paper. That was the one I had from before. Now if we pull it up, we've actually made a stamp, and I really like these edge bits that are just sort of like the edge of the I'm just going to press that down a bit on my scrap paper to clean up my stencil. That's the extent of cleaning my stencils as well. Very bad. Okay, so I just want to dry that off. So we're not going to use this piece down the bottom. I'm going to use this piece up the top as a layering piece. Doesn't take long to dry, but I'll just dry it off and I'll come back. So this is a way of stretching your supplies and getting more designs from your supplies. So now I'm just going to tear, if I could tear a straight line, it would be helpful. Just going to tear around the edges of this and a little bit off the top, a little bit more than that. So just wanting to, I've got to tear it this way. Now we've made our own pattern paper. Now let's put our layout together. Actually, we've got chipboard to do something with. So I've got this mermaid chipboard that I thought would go nice with the layout, and now we have to colour this somehow. So how are we going to colour this? What I'm going to do is, this is often what I do, is I will put my layout together in pieces and then decide what colour I want it to be. So first thing I need to do is grab my background that we had. That's not the one. Grab the background that we made, and I'm going to trim a small piece off a couple of sides, just deciding where I want to trim it off, so we can then mount it on a navy piece of paper. So I'm going to cut it to 11 and, trying to see where my mark is, 11 3/4 on both sides, and this will give us about, this will give us a small border all around the edge. And just pick sides that you don't like as much, or they've got a bit more white border than you thought. So I've got a piece of, I've got stuff everywhere. I should clean up between filming classes. That might be good. Now we've got this piece of navy cardstock. We may have to cut some more off. What have we done? Maybe this navy cardstock is smaller. Okay, it is smaller. Bear with me a moment. I will go grab another sheet of paper. That piece of paper was obviously cut into for a reason and put back in my good pile. So now we have got this one, and as you can see, we're going to have a slight border around the edge. This is going to sort of go in the middle but off to the side. What I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to take a chunk out of the bottom so I can stretch this to 2 places on my layout. So I'm going to have some up here, and I'm going to have some coming down here. So this is my photo mat, and what I'm going to do is, my photo will go on top. I'm just going to take my scissors and scrap up the edges a bit. Just dragging the scissors along to give it a bit of a scruff. Sorry about the noise. Just going to do that to this piece as well. Just bring another layer in. There are distress tools out there on the market that you can do this with, but I usually just grab my scissors. So I have double-sided tape. I'm just going to tape these two together, but I'm not going to tape them to my layout yet. Actually, we might use foam tape for this one. We'll bump this up on some foam, just to give it a bit of dimension. We are also going to put some of our what are we going to call them? Seaweed pieces up on foam as well. Probably a bit overkill on the foam, but I don't like this particular foam, so I'm trying to use it up. I find it very sticky, and when it is that sticky, it clogs up my scissors. Here we go. This is our... I put it on a bit crooked. Let's see if I can get it off, or we're just going to deal with it. I think I'm putting it more on than I'm getting it off. This is why I don't like this double-sided tape. Here we go. Always on camera, I can't line things up. I can line things up perfectly when I'm not on camera and the camera is not going. There we go, that will do. So the idea is to have this half in our frame, half not in our frame, just for something different, and to incorporate the frame into our work so it doesn't look like it's just stuck and hanging around on the page. So I've got some 400 GSM white cutouts that I sell on my store as well. So they do have a right and a wrong side. So as you can see, that side's a bit more dirty. It's got a few more burn marks than this side. Sometimes the machine puts a bit more burn marks than other times. It's like a child, my laser machine. It has a mind of its own. So if you do find you buy these ones and they've got a few dirty marks on them, just give them a coat of white paint and they come up really nicely. So we're going to have that one sitting there. I'm going to have this one sitting sort of here. I still want to see the whale tail. And now we're just going to play with these pieces. And of course, this one is going to the left, so it's going to go on the left side. What I want to do is sort of do a cluster and tuck them in and around so you don't really have stems floating around. Oops. So this one might sit up here. So wanting to just move the different colours around, not wanting to have sort of two of the same colour in the same spot. Maybe that one there. These will get moved around a little anyway. Maybe this one under there. I was playing with these before and I had the right layout, and then I took them all off. So it's just a matter of playing until they're all curly. Playing until you're happy with what placement you have got. I like these swirls because they almost look like waves. So we're going to just tuck them in and they'll look like waves on the ocean. Now this is where I decide what colour I want to do my chipboard. I might tuck this one up in here eventually. Now, I think it needs to be a dark colour. So what I might do is I might paint it night colour, which is this dark colour, but I have this in an acrylic paint. So let me go grab that. Now at this stage, before I take all this off, I usually snap a photo with my smartphone or camera so I can remember what this positioning is. So let me do that. And then I can put it back somehow to how it's supposed to go, maybe. Now let's put that piece over there. Now I'm going to take this frame out, see if I cannot disturb everything. And we're going to paint this in the night colour. I love Dina Wakley's products because they are all colour coordinated. So her gloss sprays match her paints, match her scribble sticks. All her products sort of match. So you can get the same colour in several different products, which is really cool. So this is a heavy body paint, so I don't need to prep my chipboard at all. I can just paint it straight on top. Now we are going to lose these. Actually, we're not. They're going to show up. I was going to say we might lose the engraving on the waves, but it looks like they're going to show up through the paint, which is really cool. The waves down here are just drawn on the chipboard. They're not actually cut out. So some products you put over the top, you lose the detail. Some products you don't. Looks like I put a bit too much paint out. So I'm just going to paint it out onto my scrap paper, and that gets collaged in my art journal one day. Like this piece of drop paper, it's building up some really nice different colours. So I just want to thin that paint out, and you are going to see the waves just barely on the chipboard. You probably can't see it in the camera. So we're just going to give that a dry off. So if I was painting this a light colour, like a light lemon or a lighter colour that's not as opaque, it's a bit more translucent, I would add a layer of white gesso first. Let me finish drying this and I'll be back. So I've finished drying that off. Just make sure you dry the back as well, because we are going to be positioning this on our layout. I'll just get rid of this because it's a bit wet still. We are going to be positioning on our layout, and we don't actually want to get paint on our layout. Oh, that's going to look really nice. And as we've dried it, the waves have actually come out, which is really cool. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that. There we go. You can sort of see that now. I will put some close-up photos and some at the end, because I know sometimes it's hard to see what hard to see on the camera. Now I'm going to stick this to my black piece, my dark piece of paper. Now I've got this lovely trick when it comes to trying to line things up. As I said before, I do have low vision, so to line things up is not my forte. I'm usually a tear it and have it crooked on purpose kind of person, but I am embracing lining things up. But this is a nice tape trick that will help you line things up. So you want to put a strip of tape all around the four sides. You're not wanting this tape to overlap, but you're wanting it to be almost connecting to the ends. Now the trick is grab each end and you're going to pull the tail out and tuck it, sorry you can't see, tuck it out like this. So each of the four strips has to have a tail coming out. I did learn this off a YouTuber a few years ago, but I can't remember who, so I can't give credit where credit is due. I'm not smart enough to come up with this on my own. I'm just going to stand up so I can line this up. Sorry, I keep putting it out of frame. Okay. So the advantage of this is there's not much tape exposed, so I can slide this layout around and it's not actually going to catch like that bit of foam tape did before. So I'm just going to line up and make sure I've got an even amount. It needs to come up a fraction. Hello, Alexis. My daughter's just entered the room. I am filming. Would you like me to pause? Yes, please. I have to go put my mother hat on for a moment. Bear with me. Work hat back on. Don't you love working from home? So we're just going to line this up, and now we can press down the corners where the tape is exposed and it will grab a little bit. Then we put a hand on top just to hold a bit of paper down, and we gently pull this piece and it exposes more of the tape, and we can run our finger along and press it down. Excuse me. And I just love how these bits curl up. This is so cute. So that's a trick I use when I'm doing large bits of paper, and it's not going to be perfect because, hey, I don't do perfect, but it's pretty damn close. Now I'm going to play with putting all my bits back on, and then we're going to stick them down. We're going to use some of the foam tape to raise up some of our reeds as well. So this goes in here. See how good I am at getting it back. That is bugging me up the top, so I'm going to tear that straight. And I don't like that bit of overspray down the bottom. I like it a bit better now. So that goes down here. Stuff everywhere. So that goes down here, and I want it to run the same direction as the top bit. So it's going to go there. Now, this one obviously went on this side. This one obviously went on this side because that's the way it's going. So again, I'll just place all these around, and then I will start only gluing and adding tape when I'm happy with the layout again. If I need to, I'll get my phone out, double check what I'm doing. These swirly things will be the last thing because they'll just be poked in. I think we had this one coming up here somewhere. It's fun just to play around with these. So I'm just trying to make a cluster that sort of a cluster around the bottom of the frame. That's the intention. Let's see if we can get the execution of that. I think I'm liking that, and then this swirl will go over here somewhere. Okay, so let's start sticking down. So I'm just going to use double-sided tape on this, but what I'm going to do is, it's translucent, so I don't want to put double-sided tape where it's exposed because you'll see it. So I'm just going to hide it down under where it's going to go. And I just want to see a little bit of that stenciling showing. So I want that there. Then we want to pop this other piece. So I'm going to pop this other piece just with one bit of tape at the moment. I can always add some more tape later. I just don't know where it's going to. Again, I want to see some of this stenciling. So I've got the stencil in positive and negative on this layout, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm going to put a bit of glue on here. So to glue things like chipboard and that down, I'm going to use, take the hair tie off it, I'm going to use Helmar 450. So Hillbilly Scrapping sells this. This is fantastic glue for chipboard, buttons, anything that's not paper, because it's quick drying and it holds really tight. So for now, I'm just going to put a strip when the glue decides to get into the tip of the bottle. It's more like a gel, so it does take 30 seconds to a minute to get the glue down to the tip when it's been sitting up. And in a colder climate, it takes a bit longer. There it's coming. I will glue this down a lot more when I have got the placement. So I just want that corner to poke out there. Just going to hold that on. And then I'm still able to slip my photo under that corner and under the whale tail. So I'm not actually going to add any glue there. So we've got that sitting here. And then we are going to start gluing these pieces down. Now some of the back pieces I'm going to do flat, and then other pieces I'm going to add some foam tape to. So let's just get these ones on the right side of where they're going. I can sort of tell that because of the way it is, I think I've got one too many, the way it is curling. So I know whether they're going to go on the right or the left, and I want an odd number just to make them an odd number. So I've got 6, so I'm going to incorporate this one. So we might drop that one down, and then we've got this coming in here. So I'm sort of trying to create a half circle and then just not going back the way I intended them. And I've changed them since my photo, so that's not going to help me either. It's got to go around straight. I still want to see the whale tail. Okay, so when I stick these on, I'm only going to tack them into place at the moment with a little bit of glue in one spot, and then I can easily move them about. So I'm going to start just sticking them to the back of this frame, and then I'm going to add one to the other side. So I'm going to add as many to the frame as I can, and then I can keep moving them around until I'm happy with where they're going. The glue is being a little bit stubborn. It's probably because I didn't clean the tip of it. Let me grab a bit of paper. Sometimes if you get a tiny bit of glue in the spout, it just doesn't want to come out. And it's pretty cold here tonight. I've turned my heater off so I could film because it's rather loud. So I like to build my embellishments like this and keep adding stuff until I'm happy with it, and I don't actually stick anything down to the back piece until I'm happy. Some people I see on YouTube can build it straight away from the base and keep adding stuff, but I just find that's not me. Just want to sit that on the edge of the whale tail. And I will have to add some foam tape to the back of these when I work out the placement. And the advantage is if that was in the wrong spot, it was sticking out a bit with the glue, even though it's quick drying, I'm not putting enough glue on, I can still take them off and move them around. So I like that one there. That one there, and this one underneath. This is going to come up into here. I'm just going to cut this one off because it's a bit long. I may use that little bit somewhere. Ah, that's better. It's sitting a whole lot better. And I'm just going to tuck that under there. Okay, so let's glue this one on. So it's basically a matter of just playing around until you're happy, and everyone's happiness level is different. I like to teach sort of techniques in my classes, but I also like my students to, or my participant students, I suppose they are students, to take the technique and run with it as well. So if you want to change around the placement or change around bits and pieces, go for it. You don't have to exactly stick to what I have shown in the final product. And it's nice for people to add their personal touch to the layout as well. I'm not one that can totally follow a class and do it exactly the same, whether it's art journaling, scrapbooking or whatever. I find I've got to add my own personal touches to it just to make it my own. So I do encourage that. I like to teach sort of more technique classes than making you follow the finished product. Okay, so I like this in here. Now I just got to find a home for this one. I like that. I am liking that a lot. And I may even use this one. I'm just going to round this one off. This is the little bit that I cut off. So I'm just rounding the bit I cut, and I might just stick it under there because it just looks a bit gappy there. I'm just going to tuck that under there. Now, if all goes well, I should have this piece as one piece. I do. Now, we just have to stick it down. So that and that will be flat. That will be stuck to that. I'm just working out if I need foam tape under any. I do. I need some foam tape over here. And I have some squares. Now, what I might actually do is put some... Yeah, I knew my swirls would come off. Put some glue on the back of here. So I'm going to put glue, and I need foam tape on something. What do I need foam tape on? Oh, I need foam tape on this side, under here. Because this is sitting up on the chipboard, I just want to give it a bit more support. So we're just going to add a bit of foam tape to there. So now that's the same height as that chipboard piece. And I'm just going to put some more glue down here. I'm not... Come on, glue. Behave yourself tonight. I have to heat my glue up, won't I? Put in a little pot of hot water. So I've got a reference point of where to line it up with. I'm just moving it around. So I didn't actually put any glue on the tips of these leaves, so I'm actually going to put some foam tape under them to raise some of them up. Just to give the page a bit more dimension, because we've got dimension with the photo. This is why I didn't glue them right to the tip before, so I can go in and place some foam tape where I think it needs it. I might put a little bit up here. So I was just looking up to see if I was actually recording when I sat down again. I did that the other day. I sat down and started doing a layout, putting it together, and I forgot to hit the record button. And it's not something I could have redone and taken back, but that's okay. We got around it. I find twisting the layout around to have the piece I'm working on in front of me is a lot easier than trying to work over the top of the layout. Need some more foam tape here. Oops. So I want a lot of these pieces to actually sort of not be stuck down completely. See how they're sort of a bit lifted up, which is really cool. They're still stuck down and they won't move, but they are lifted up a bit. Now, I don't like the amount that I've got here of this tissue paper. That's why I didn't stick it down completely. But I also don't want to tear. Actually, I have... Is that crooked? Or is it just me? I actually want to tear a bit of that off. Ah, liking that a whole lot better now. This is why I don't put total bits of adhesive on it. I don't like this down here. Can we add a little bit of a stem? So these stems are great to cut up. Or do I want a different coloured stem? What have I got cut out? Actually, I might use that one under there. I like that one under there. I could sit here and play all night and add bits and frilly bits. We lost a lot of our waves where our leaf ended up, but that's okay. We've still got the, whoops, we've still got the frame. So that one I just want to slide under there, and this one I need to glue on. That's much better, and I might just take a little bit off the bottom. Just got to be careful because I've got a bit of tape there. Not liking that a whole lot better now. White swirls. Now I could have coloured these swirls. Okay, we're going to have this one just there, and this one went over here, didn't it? Now I'm going to actually cut these because then I can put them in another spot. So feel free to cut up the chipboard shapes. Sometimes when you say that to people, go, oh, I didn't think of that. And when I'm gluing this, I'm just aiming for the fattest points. Again, I don't want it all glued down completely, so I'm just going to tuck that in there. So you wouldn't even know I cut that off unless I was filming this video. So now I've got this little bit to tuck in somewhere. So this bit, I'm just going to aim for the fattest bits here to put down. Once it goes in your page protector, it will sit really, really nicely. And I'm going to add that bit somehow. Down. Down here. Just wondering if I need a little bit more up here. As I said, I could fiddle for days, but I actually have let's just see what a little bit up here looks like. And I'm just going to trim this one up in case I want to use it. I don't have to use this last one. I just keep putting in spots and seeing if it'll work. Actually, I like it down there. And knowing when to stop is also a skill that I'm still learning. I've been scrapbooking and also art journaling for many, many years. And the knowing when to stop notion is hard. There we go. I'll just stick that little bit down there. I don't waste any of these little bits. I either stick them on the layout or they go in my scrap box, and I will pull them out for my art journal. This is the one I hadn't stuck down. Or I'll pull them out for another art journal page or a card. This would look equally cute on a card on a smaller scale. You could still use these leaves. So I'm just going to pull up that little bit of the photo mat so we can pop that one in there. There we go. I'm going to stop fiddling. So I've still got enough room here, and under the whale tail and here to slip our photo in when I decide what photo I want to stick on there. Thank you very much for watching, and all these products will be available on my website under the Great Australian Craft Show number 6 folder. They'll be on special for 25% off for the month, for the rest of the month of September. And let me know if you've got any questions or want to know any more details about the products I used or where to get certain things. I can point you in the right direction. As I said, my friend from Hillbilly Scrapping sells most of the other stuff. She sells the sprays and the paints. I sell the stencil, the chipboard and the swirls of this layout. Thank you very much, and I will see you again at a real show or at the next Craft Alive in October. Wow, it'll be October already.